can you give us a brief overview of the history of ESL and Riot and Competitive League and where it's going?
Mm-hmm. So obviously I wasn't there at the start of the relationship, but when it comes down to, I think, is that ESL and Riot have had a great working relationship in that, again, the goal is the same. You want to provide a great overview of competitive League of Legends. And now what it's coming to is that we can, ESL can provide League of Legends through IEM, where you get to see these matches that you might not. But again, it's all that balance of the World Championship needs its status, and there's other events and it's all scheduling. You can't oversaturate it. You can't oversaturate anything. But I think the conclusion is that as the League of Legends ecosystem evolved, so has the conversation between us and Riot. And I think it's been a healthy one. Working with Riot last year, it was very apparent that the intent was the same. The end goal was the same. At no point does either party want a certain event or a broadcast to not be as good. You want it to be good. You just want to make sure that you're filling the different gaps to make sure that the community is satisfied and getting everything they can get out of something that we've all built together for esports. And I think that's the takeaway. It's very hard. It's very hard, both physically, again, scheduling locations, and also just making sure that our interests don't collide by accident. But the communication's been really good, and it's been very refreshing to work with them, because I was always a little curious, when I was on the outside, of how does that work? Because on paper it seems like it should just be a blatant conflict, but it's not. It's really not, and it's a really fun relationship to try to figure this out. Because I think when we strike gold, it really shows, as it has in some of the past IEM events or certain stops, where people are like, this was great. And yet, they're just as invested, or if anything, more invested afterwards about the LCS or about the World Championship, because there's this new piece of history that's been added. And I think that's the important part.
What's interesting is that you start planning these IEM events a year ahead of time, but still there are so many moving pieces up until the last day.
Yeah.
What are the things that are just out of your control that you end up, even though you're spending a year developing it, what happens in those last few weeks up until the match?
Well, I think the elephant in the room that we have to address is obviously teams, right? And their status. And everyone can be on the same page 6 months out of, hey, this sounds like a great time. But again, if a team, for instance, doesn't do well in the LCS, they have Worlds coming up, and they want to practice or they want to take a break, you can't really help that. And you can't force it, because what's the point of forcing it if you want the best out of it, right? You want the best performance, you want the best games. You can't force anything. But I think it's the fact that we have to recognize competitive League of Legends, from a team's perspective, you can never count on something being, the result. You always have to, a team could win and not be satisfied with their performance and suddenly want to go into a 2-month boot camp. And if they want to do that because they want to win, the Summoners Cup, you have to respect it, because, hey, if they win the Summoners Cup after that, that's a cool story. You want to capture that. You don't want to step on any toes. And I think that's the hardest, when it comes down to, locking in a stadium. That it happens a while back. You sign a contract and you're good. You got it. You're done. But there are other things when it comes to scheduling, again, because there's just so much going on in esports overall. So, for instance, we have to consider everything we're doing internally in terms of scheduling of, can we staff this well? Can it happen? Do we have the right people? And then Riot has to make sure that their schedule works out. And we have to calculate this out. But even then, some other events may not be planned until 2 months after that conversation happens. And again, how do you work off of that? And that happens, again, in any gaming community. And I think until now, I would say 85-90% of the time, organizers have worked out a way to make it good still for any conflicting parties. But it's a matter of, again, being prepared, not counting on anything and being like, well, we locked in the state 300 days ago, so it's just going to happen. It's not if the teams aren't there. It's not if the fans aren't there. So you can't force anything. You just have to be open. So you never let your guard down until until the show's over, really. It's not even until you start. You start the show. Sometimes that's when the real, nerves start kicking in because you're like, what if we have these delays? What if this doesn't happen? What if the lights don't go on? Like, we had this macro planned, and what if it doesn't work out? I mean, you rehearsed it, but again, you're working with machines. Sometimes they break. What's the backup? So until it's over, until a teardown is over and you're flying out back home, you don't let your guard down.